APNewsBreak P0lice won't fight California use of force bill. Sacramento, California. Major law and the measure would bar police from using lethal force unless it is necessary to defend against an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury to officers or bystanders. It was prompted by the current standard lets officers kill if they have reasonable fear they or others are in imminent danger, a threshold that makes it rare for officers to be charged following a shooting and rarer still for them to be convicted. The issue has spawned emotional testimony from those who have lost loved ones in confrontations with police and from officers who have been involved in shootings on the job. Law enforcement officials did not explain their decision. But a revised version, the amended measure also makes clear that officers are not required to retreat or back down in the face of a suspect's resistance, and officers don't lose their right to self-defense if they use objectively. Amendments also strip out a specific requirement that officers try to de-escalate confrontations before using deadly force, but allow the courts to consider officers' actions leading up to fatal shootings, said Peter Bibbering, Police Practices Director for the American Civil Liberties Union of California, which proposed the bill and negotiated the changes. The ACLU considers the revised measure to still have the strongest language of any in the U.S., though legal experts split on the significance of Thursday's changes. But University of South Carolina law professor and former Tallahassee, Florida, police officer Seth Stoughton called it a significant change to current state law. The revised bill does it. Democratic government. Gavin Newsom and law enforcement opponents blocked passage of a similar measure introduced last year after police killed Clark, an unarmed black man. The death set off in the Peace Officers Research Association of California, which represents rank-and-file officers, and the California Police Chiefs Association both removed their opposition and moved to neutral positions. The groups were the 6 other associations representing state, county, and local law enforcement officers, and the California Statewide Law Enforcement Association all also withdrew their opposition. Law enforcement organizations are backing a related Senate measure that would require that every officer be trained in ways to avoid opening fire.
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.